Hey everybody, welcome to another lesson of learning Japanese. Today we're going to cover a relatively simple grammar pattern, and that is just using the grammar expression etsu dewanakute wa, or alternatively x jyanakute wa, as meaning not x but y. So what this expression is going to be used for is basically to clarify that a given statement is going to apply to y and not x. So given that it's a clarification, there's usually going to be some context to the conversation beforehand. For example, probably the person that you were talking to mistook something for something else, and you want to correct him or her by saying this grammar expression, not that but this. And so yeah, that's what this grammar pattern is exactly for. We can see here that it's typically used with nouns, but it can also be used with phrases such as things inside quotes. If somebody misquotes someone, you can say, oh, he didn't say that, but he said this. And so yeah, that's pretty much the gist of the usage of this grammar pattern. Some little specifics about the grammar. In this grammar construction, the particle te that we have right before y is going to be optional. So you can use it or you cannot use it depending on whatever you want to do. Additionally, I gave the alternative of using x dewanaku wa or x jyanakute wa. We should already know that the dewanaku is kind of the more formal one and the jyanaku one is going to be the more casual one, and that's going to reflect here because the dewanaku version is basically here the written form of this grammar pattern, and the jyanaku is going to be the more spoken language form of this grammar pattern. And so yeah, that's all we really have to know before we jump into some examples, so let's just do that. For our first example sentence, we have the simple line, すみません、それはあなたのかばんじゃなくて私のかばんです. And what this line will translate to is just basically, excuse me, that's actually not your bag, but my bag. You can see here how the statement itself is kind of just being used to correct a mistake on behalf of your conversational partner, or to clarify some information that he or she may have misinterpreted. So let's break down the sentence bit by bit. First up, we have すみません. This is just like a default phrase that means excuse me. Next we have それ. This is going to be the topic of the sentence, and as we go along the sentence, we're going to find out that it is referring to the bag. We have wa marking sore as the topic of the sentence. And then we have anata no kaban. And this is going to be the first variable in our grammar pattern. This is going to basically be x. So we have anata no kaban, and anata is going to translate to you basically. We have the particle no doing the noun of a noun modification. So kaban means bag, so anata no kaban means your bag. And then we're going to add the grammar pattern phrasing here, jyanakute. So the jyanakute basically here is going to make this mean not your bag. And now we're going to offer the second variable in this grammar pattern, which is going to be y. So y here is going to be watashi no kaban. So basically y will be the correct thing that the statement applies to. And so if watashi is going to be me, and the particle no here is doing the noun of a noun modification as well, watashi no kaban is going to be my bag. And so we put this all together and it's going to translate to, excuse me, that is not your bag, but actually my bag. Sumimasen, sore wa anata no kaban ja nakute watashi no kaban desu. For our next example sentence, we have the line, machigatta, Jyoji Washington no osusume wa kono restaurant ja nakute ano restaurant da. And what this line will translate to is something along the lines of, I messed up. George Washington's recommendation wasn't this restaurant, but rather that restaurant. So let's break down the sentence bit by bit. First up, we just have the it's kind of an exclamation here. We have machigatta, and this is going to be the past plain form of the verb machiga, which means kind of to mistake. So this is saying, oh, I messed up, or my mistake. Then we have Jyoji Washington. This is going to be George Washington. We have no osusume, so this is going to be the noun of a noun modification. So osusume here means recommendation. So Jyoji Washington no osusume is going to be George Washington's recommendation. We have wa marking the recommendation as the topic of the sentence. And then we're going to implement the grammar pattern now. So for our first variable, the thing that isn't right, x, we have kono restaurant. So if kono restaurant is the thing that's wrong, x, then we're going to mark it with the negative jyanakute. And so right after that, we introduce the second variable of the grammar pattern, the thing that is right, y. And so the y here is going to be, instead of kono restaurant, ano restaurant. So instead of this restaurant, that restaurant. And then what we do now is just end the sentence with the plain form conjugation of des, which is da. So again, altogether, this is going to read as, I messed up. George Washington's recommendation wasn't this restaurant, but rather that restaurant. Machigatta. Jyoji Washington no osusume wa kono restaurant ja nakute ano restaurant da. For our last example sentence, we're going to do a really simple line, and that is, Watashi wa kankokugo dewanaku nihongo ga hanaseru. And what this line simply translates to is just, I can speak Japanese, not Korean. Let's break down the sentence bit by bit. First up, we have watashi, which is going to be me or I. We have wa marking me or I as the topic of the sentence. We have kankokugo, which is going to translate to Korean. This is going to be the first variable in the grammar pattern, the thing that's wrong, x. So in line with that, we need to mark this with a negative form somehow, and that's going to be dewanaku. You can see here how we're using the more formal version and how we're dropping the particle te as well, just because that just happens to be the case. Then right after that, we're going to insert the second variable of the grammar pattern, the thing that is actually right, and that's going to be nihongo in this case, which is Japanese. Then we're going to follow Japanese with ga hanaseru, and this is basically just going to be the potential form construction of the verb hanasu, which means to speak. So this becomes I can speak, and so altogether it translates to I can speak Japanese, not Korean. Watashi wa kankokugo dewanaku nihongo ga hanaseru. And so yeah, that should cover this grammar pattern, this pretty dang simple grammar pattern of just saying not X but rather Y to kind of clarify a point that was wrong in the first place.